This is Frederick Meekins of the American Worldview Alert. During a PBS town hall, President Obama lamented the demise of civility in relation to the discussion of public issues. Does this condemnation extend to minorities looting wig shops and liquor stores repeatedly in response to unpopular court verdicts? It's one thing that aspects of the X-Men movies differ in detail from the comics. However, can't the producers take the time to keep the films consistent with one another? And if more than 20 years have elapsed within the past 3 movies, shouldn't at least Professor X and Magneto have appeared to age? A pastor commented that some people treat church as a place to go on a date, and the problem: there is nothing in the Bible saying your mind has to solely be on God in the confines of the church structure. The same ascetic would then turn around and toss a fit if the same couple went to the movies. Would he rather be pitched in bars? How is Donald Trump suggesting that radical Hispanic or Islamist judges might be biased against him appreciably different than these tolerance mongers that are applauded and fawned over for decrying white man's law and the imposition of white standards upon backwards cultures and societies? If possible, it is better to take care of aging family in a home setting. However, zealots insist you are under religious obligation to care firsthand for the declining elderly round the clock because your parents raised you. By this standard, would parents be negligent if they took a child to a medical facility to address issues that can't be cured with chicken soup and cough syrup? It was remarked on the Worldview in 5 Minutes with Adam McManus that God must apparently be protecting parental rights because a Norwegian family has been reunited after the children were removed from the home over a religious dispute. Applying this reasoning, had the children not been returned, or in reflection upon the number of families languishing under the heel of assorted social welfare systems around the world, couldn't one conclude that God apparently is not protecting or cares all that much about parental rights? This seems a rather poor criteria either way by which to assess the importance of this sort of thing in light of God's preferences for humanity. Russell Moore has correctly observed that Donald Trump is likely a lost soul needing to repent. After all, the candidate did confess that he really didn't have anything he felt that he needed to be forgiven of. However, given that Moore himself has celebrated the demise of what he has categorized as cultural Christianity, by that definition, what does the real estate mogul's soteriological state have to do with a fitness to hold presidential office? It seems June is celebrated as Immigrant Heritage Month in a number of communities. As part of these commemorations, it should be pointed out that when most of our ancestors arrived here, most were required to adhere to clearly delineated standards, were expected that this land would be their primary loyalty, and that from this end they were free to book passage back to their respective trash piles. On the docudrama Barbarians Rising, Jesse Jackson was briefly interviewed in regards to Hannibal because the Carthaginian general was African and presumably black. So would such a genetic analogy qualify Howard Stern to lecture the viewer regarding Judas Maccabeus? Homeschool activist Kevin Swanson, in a Generations radio broadcast, seemed a bit ecstatic that Social Security could be cut by as much as 30% by 2020 2024 as a result of projected budget shortfalls. Perhaps families and individuals should prepare for that by directing to the care of the elderly the tithes that they would instead donate to the institutional church and assorted ministries, especially if these funds go to cover the expenses of other family members. There really is not a legitimate moral argument professional religionists can make against such a financial strategy. The cover advertisement of the May 5th, 2016 issue of Variety magazine says of the Fox drama empire that the drama is grounded in something real and the most important show on television. Would the same thing be said if the program was about white people? Were grandiose sociological explanations proffered as to why the antics of J.R. Ewing were obligatory viewing? In an analysis of the David and Goliath narrative, it was said regarding King Saul's armor that the true Israelites did not wear such tactical apparel because that would be to rely on earthly means in battle. Was this a biblical command or simply a human cultural adaptation? Furthermore, given that America is not Old Testament Israel, such a fact has little bearing on U.S. military policy. Fuss is being made that the La Raza judge to which Donald Trump is condemning is not the La Raza that is the left-wing activist group. That is irrelevant. For would a white judge be allowed to belong to an organization that referred to whites positively or in any fashion suggesting that whites as a race ought to affiliate with others primarily for the purposes of advancement resulting from genetic loyalty? In the June 6, 2016 issue of America, an article dealing with political involvement lists economic justice as one of the primary issues of concern to American Roman Catholic bishops. That is code for confiscation under the threat of force from those that have, in the name of those that do not have, that do not have, for the purposes of bureaucrats allocating as such state functionaries see fit. As such, should resource-endowed institutions such as the Roman Catholic Church be forced to surrender a significant portion of their holdings on behalf of other denominations or religious organizations that might not be so well off in terms of finances and property? On a show on global exploration, it was observed that dogs are a part of human society the world over. But perhaps it should be clarified that in some parts of the world, they are considered little more than menu items and mistreated in vile contempt. During a ceremony where John McCain was recognized for his willingness to acquiesce to the demands of liberal elites, the Arizona senator called for respectful civil discourse. Was he referring to the variety of such when he contemptuously referred to Ted Cruz as a hobbit? For what the senator was saying in that instance is that the average voter should sit down and shut up. For in Tolkien's narratives, hobbits represented the virtue of the common person and what such individuals can accomplish in times of crisis. It seems that the mass shooting of an Orlando gay nightclub was declared a likely terrorist incident within a matter of hours. Ironically, this is by the same administration, no doubt still insisting that the Fort Hood attack was merely workplace violence. Contrary to an assertion made in a pulpit, why shouldn't you push back when attacked, especially physically? Doesn't propagating such docility in a church open people up to victimization? Isn't it better to teach not to start a fight and to look for escape routes if possible, but be sure to finish a fight if backed into a corner? Despite his travails, it is pointed out that Joseph never says anything belligerent to his brothers. Where does it say because of that we are obligated to be walked all over? Isn't it propagating this mindset of never saying anything that results in holocausts and destroyed cultures? So were Sandusky's kids supposed to have retained a quiet and meek spirit while they were being brutalized? Shooting at a gay bar in Florida the same day a jihadist caught on his way to attack the LA Pride Parade. If you believe the government propagandists that these incidents are not linked, I have a bridge you might like to purchase. This is Frederick Meekins.